we're here with Jason at Knobula. How's it going?
Yeah, hi there. Yeah, it's going great. We were having a great show here at Superbooth.
Excellent.
And we've got, we're showing off two of our modules. We've got Polycinematic here, our 8-voice polyphonic synthesizer in 12 HP of Eurorack. And then we've got Kickain, which is a kick drum and sidechain built into one module, complete with Reverb. And yeah, do you want to hear some sounds on it?
Yeah.
Because it's got a built-in sidechain, so you kind of have to hear it in context. So you've got like a track going. And the sidechain and the kick drum are all connected. So the more decay I give here, the more release I give to the sidechain. Here comes the sidechain.
Such a valuable resource in making music, isn't it, the sidechain?
I think so. I think it's often forgotten, and it's one of those things that sits at the very end of your rack. And the kick is usually at the very beginning, and we've brought the two together into a single unit. So you can see the whole mix is going in here, and it's coming out here, going into our mixer. And we're just triggering the kick drum here. And whenever the kick drum hits, it gets into it pushes down the sidechain. If you listen to it without the kick.
So nice to pull those two things together.
Yeah, and it gives you masses of control and looks after your mix at the same time. We've also added Spectral sidechaining, which has never been done before, at least as far as I know. It's certainly not in Eurorack. And what this does is it just sidechains the bass frequencies. So if I switch it on, you can hear the snares coming through now, and a lot of the high frequencies. But the low frequencies are being attenuated to make way for the kick.
Great. And at what point is that what sort of frequency is that set at?
That frequency is taken from the kick drum itself. So as the kick drum decays in frequency, as it comes down, the sidechain frequency is tracking it. So the two are intertwined. It's not just like two separate units with a few similar controls. They're actually talking to each other under the hood about what they're doing. So,
and what's the architecture behind the kick drum? Is it based on any particular?
Yeah, it's based loosely on the original architecture of the TR-99 kick drum. But if I set it here, we've got the kind of the click sound, but we've given it two envelopes instead of one. So it's got a separate envelope for the decay, called the bend control. So you can get like a kind of flat sounding kick, or you can. But it's also got punch, which is a short envelope. It's always the same length. Whereas this envelope is governed by the decay control.
I see.
So you've got these two ways you can kind of punch through with the pitch. And then the click itself, we've got the kind of electronic electro kick, and then we've got more of a noisy one here it blends into, and then we've got various filtered versions of that, like that resonant filtered kicks.
Oh, so this is flicking through additional layers for the kick.
Well, it's like a lot of our modules. When you turn one knob, you're actually turning about 4 or 5 in some cases. Behind the scenes, it's changing filters. It's bringing in different resonances, or adding different sounds or different levels as well. So you've got a few different levels as well. You turn it slowly, so you're not kind of stuck with one level of kick. So we've tried to get a lot in one control here.
Yeah, I think it's really nice to have that sort of edge to a kick sometimes, that front end sort of
completely, yeah, it's got that sharpness. So you can adjust that as well. We've got an attack control here.
Oh, great.
So there's an attack control, and that has the kick comes at a very high initial transient, and you can actually smooth that down. And in doing so, it actually brings out the transient of the incoming mix. So you can blend between a kind of compressed kick drum or a compressed background sound. So it's quite subtle, but when you're hearing it through a sound system, it just makes it really fat sounding on the kick. And also you get the
already is a great kick.
Yeah, exactly. It's a great place it's a great starting point. I mean, if you hear it like this, you can hear. If I take the attack off the kick drum here, you can hear the snare coming through from the Queen of Pentacles. And if I do that, you can hear like much more of a thud on the kick drum, but we've lost the snare because you can't really have two transients. You've got to, well, you can in the middle, but you can't have two extremes.
Yeah, nice to swing between the two.
So you got that blend there.
Great. And what's the other module that you have there?
And the reverb. I'll just cover the reverb as well. So the reverb, again, we had to write it especially for the kick drum because you can actually. It doesn't accumulate. Each time the kick drum hits, it resets the whole reverb and it erases everything in it. So even though we've got a stupid amount of feedback, it resets each time. So if I stop, you can get these lovely big kind of booms and then go straight back to...
Was that a decision to kind of reduce like muddiness of the effect of it?
Yeah, I mean the challenge was to try and introduce reverb into kick drums, which happens a lot in techno, but they tend to get sampled and then just repeated, because if you just put everything, a kick drum alone into a reverb, it just gets a bit out of control. So it gets enveloped, and then as well here, so it's enveloped by the decay and it's reset. So it's kind of like sampling it, but it's slightly better than that because the reverb is never the same twice. It's always slightly different each time, so it gives it a very natural feel.
Yeah, and I like the way you've implemented it because there's no sort of audible click or stop-start sound between the reverb.
It's seamless. That was one of the hardest things we had to do, and we didn't know we were going to have to do it, but we got there in the end. It's also got the bass cuts on it. You can't really hear it on this system, but you can have the kick drum goes right down to 20 hertz. Or you can limit the frequency to 40 hertz or 60 hertz. I actually think it's 38 hertz. It's whatever it was for the original 909.
I see. And is this module available now, the Kickain?
It's available to pre-order now. We're shipping in mid-June. Everybody's pre-ordering it. All the stores have ordered it from me, and they're getting them in mid-June. So some of them are taking pre-orders.
Excellent. And how much is it going to retail for?
Same price as the Polycinematic, so it's £320, including VAT, or €350, roughly, including tax. I don't know what it is in dollars. Probably the same nowadays, somewhere around there.
Yeah, not far off.
The Polycinematic, I mean, that's had a few... we've just done a recent firmware upgrade on this, but this is our kind of flagship product, which is a fully polyphonic 8-voice synthesizer. It has 7 oscillators per voice and 8 voices, so that's 56 oscillators altogether, which you can detune to the 5th, and then to the sub-octave. It's got a chord memory in it, which is this is how we integrate it into modular. So every time you play a chord, let's pick a nice chord. That one. Every time you play a chord, it's remembered in the chord memory, and you can access that chord using either the modulation over MIDI or a CV control here. So you can access one of 8 chords. If I do like...
And how does it define a chord? Like, is that any more than one note that's held at the same time?
Yeah, well, it's always recording them. It's whenever whatever you release. So if I can be playing away, but it's the last notes that I release will be that chord.
Great.
Sorry, wrong button.
Awesome, that's a great feature.
So that's how we integrate it into URAC. It's also got a massive reverb as well. Filter, fully resonant filter per voice. It's for 3 modes. Notch filter. High pass.
That's lovely.
It's got square wave functions, so you can get just your pure again, same principle with the detune. So you've got pure square wave. Pulse. And then a kind of overdriven square wave, which is I'm going to play on the bass. It's now got stereo voice panning. If you're listening with headphones. Are you recording both channels? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So if you're listening with headphones, you've got stereo voice panning, which is great for the strings as well, even with one voice. It's got user definable temperament, so you can have equal temperament, which is this. No, it's not. It is. Yeah, this. All the notes are perfectly in tune with each other, but by default we have this, which is more of a kind of analog sounding. But you can go extreme with it and make it completely out of tune. Which is weird actually. It works really well with brass sounds.
Yeah, it's kind of got that chaotic.
Yeah, it's just slightly out of whack. So that's one of our new features.
Great.
And yeah, and the organ, of course, which loads of people love, which is again the same principle where you've got an organ oscillator. It's like a sine wave, but it's done as a drawbar preset. But you can detune them, and lo and behold, it sounds like a Leslie cabinet. Yeah, but it all is just 3 different oscillators.
Nice. Wow, real diverse range of sounds.
Yeah, and then you can go to the 5th, so it's like another drawbar setting or an octave. And again, there's everything in between too. Plus the reverb. So we've given it, we've also got infinite release if you want to use it as an oscillator. The release control goes to like hold, like a hold pedal. And then we've still got the same chord features. So you can play around with it as a MIDI keyboard, and then you can just unplug the MIDI and you've got all these CV controls to play around with. You can choose chords, you can pitch them.
Oh, you can re-pitch them.
So it's sort of a bit like playing with a sampler sometimes.
Yeah. Excellent. Well, thank you so much for showing us.
Yeah, well, thanks for coming to see us, and we'll see you again soon. Bye.